This is how the government's hidden housing tax system is ripping you off, and this is how you fight back. So you think buying a house means building wealth, guys? Cute. The truth is, for the first 15 years of your mortgage, you're not even paying off your home loan. That's correct. You're paying off the government's addiction to property taxes. But here's the twist, guys. There's a way to flip the system, and today I'm going to show you how to fight back. This is how you're going to win against a government that's rigging the game to make you pay more for less. So today, this is what we're unpacking. Today, we're exposing how government-imposed taxes, fees and charges are silently baked into the price of every new home you're buying right now, and how that means you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars plus interest just for the privilege of being taxed, guys. Today, we'll unpack the true cost breakdown behind new homes and apartments, how up to 50% of your mortgage goes straight to the government revenue, and the psychological and financial damage of this hidden tax system. And finally, guys, the tactical ways savvy buyers like my clients at the moment and investors can fight back and use the system against itself.
I'm gonna hit you so hard, it'll make your ancestors dizzy.
So right now, guys, let's peel back the curtain. According to HIA chief economist Tim Reardon, he says, quote, "The government takes more from the sale of a home than the builder, the developer, the land seller, and the banks combined," end quote. Now let that sink in. When you buy a house, the biggest winner isn't you, it's the tax office, the goddamn ATO. In Sydney at the moment, that's about $270,000 of taxes and regulatory costs baked into the standard house and land package. And in Melbourne, you might be asking, that's around $200,000. And here's the kicker, guys. If you're financing this with a mortgage, you're not just paying those taxes, you're paying interest on those taxes as well. Now, overall, I don't know what you think about this, but that's compound stupidity. So here's the estimated breakdown of how taxes inflate the cost of a new home in Australia. These figures are based on industry data from the Housing Industry Association, HIA, and the Urban Development Institute of Australia, UDIA. And combined with that, I've added the financial modeling from other brokers and financial planners that I work with. Now, based on an average house and land package, let's say $1 million in Sydney. I know you can't find that, but let's just use that for example. The total government imposed tax load is around 25 to 35% of a new build. To break this down, let's start with stamp duty. That's between 4 to 5%, and this figure varies by state to state. For example, in New South Wales, it's around $42,000 on a $1 million home. And even if you're borrowing this like through a mortgage broker like myself, you're paying interest on all these government taxes over 30 years. Now, next in line is the GST on construction. That's around 10%. Now, this alone is a huge chunk of your mortgage. Next, we have the infrastructure contributions. That's between 6 to 8%. This includes local council and state government charges that the council charges developers to fund roads, sewage, parks, etc. And of course, guys, these charges are passed down to you, the end buyer. And on top of that, guys, there's another layer of cost, which is the embedded land tax and holding costs. That's between 2 to 4%. Now, I don't know whether you guys know, developers incur land tax and holding costs during planning delays. And then they embed this into the final prices that you pay. And again, on top of that layer of costs, there's planning delays and regulatory costs. And that's between 2 to 3%. This includes the red tapes that causes delays in approvals, which ultimately increases the holding cost and reduces supply in the market, as you guys know. And then on top of that, there's other levy costs, which is about another 1%. I mean, guys, think about the environmental levies, open space contributions, water connection fees, etc. And right now, if you're scratching your head and go, hey Q, that's a lot of numbers, let me put that into an example. Let's say you're buying a house and land package at the moment. In Sydney, around $1 million. I know you can't find a house and land package for $1 million at the moment, but let's just use that example to round that number up and make that easier for me to show you in this calculation. So right now we have a $1 million house. The taxes and charges in total is around $250,000 to $300,000. And this charge is a breakdown of all those costs I just mentioned in terms of percentage wise. Now, in terms of over a 30-year loan at 6% interest, and I can get you cheaper than that, but let's just use 6% for argument's sake. This adds another $350,000 to $400,000 on repayments just on tax, guys. Now, before I break this down further, let me segue for you guys who think, oh, this gap is limited to houses only. Wait till you hear what's happening with apartments. The HIA found that in Sydney alone, first home buyers and investors can pay up to $346,000 or 38% of a new apartment's price in tax and regulatory costs. And now moving to Brisbane, that component has jumped up to 68% since 2019, guys. Now, I don't know about you guys, that's not inflation. That's government extortion. And guys, guess who pays that? It's not the developer, not the council, you guys. the first home buyers, the first time noob investors. Let me give you a simple breakdown. Let's assume the average cost of a new apartment in Sydney is about $910,000. And this is sourced from CoreLogic March 2024 ABS dwelling data. HIA states that, quote, up to 38% of this cost is due to taxes, fees, and government charges, end quote. This means the $910,000 times 38%, which is $345,800. Let's round that off to $346,000. The component make up the $346,000. We have GST, $90,000 on construction. Then we have developer levies, infrastructure charges, that's around $75,000. Then we have stamp duty, which is passed on by the developer. That's $38,000. Then we have planning, rezoning, and council fees. That's $32,000. Then we have land tax, which is embedded into the price. That's around $30,000. And then we have the environmental and open space levies. That's about another $25,000. And on top of that, we have building approval, compliance, and energy regulation fees. That's another $22,000. And again, on top of that, miscellaneous legal, title registration, and red tape. That's another $15,000. In total, guys, that's a whopping $327,000 to $346,000 of total cost baked into the price of this unit. And let me zoom in on what I just said. The GST on the construction, guys, even they go, yeah, that's GST, that's normal, but that 10% on the $910,000, that's $90,000 to $91,000. You know where that flows to? That flows directly to the goddamn ATO. Now, right now, guys, let's talk about the cruel math behind your mortgage. If you have a pen and paper right now, bring it out, let's do the math together. For the first 15 years of your mortgage, nearly 50%, yes, 50%, I said it, of your repayments are going to cover the tax load of costs that I mentioned above. And that extra money that you're paying is not going towards your kitchen, not your land, it's just pure government taxes. So for example, for the average couples, that's 15 years of 2 full-time incomes going into a black hole. So my take on that, guys, that's not just financial oppression. That is totally economic Stockholm syndrome, guys. Now, a lot of you will be thinking, hey Q, how's that 50% of the cost of the build and I'm paying on that? How does that work out? Guys, let me prove exactly how taxes are eating up 50% of your repayments in the first 15 years. That's why I told you to get your pen and paper out. I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring the receipts so you can work along together with me. Now, right now, this assumption and this math I'm doing with you at the moment is based on purchase price of a house and land package in Sydney. And let's say, to be more realistic, $1.1 million. Now, first, not to bore you guys, we already worked out that the total government taxes, levies, and etc. and charges is around $270,000. Because as I mentioned above, the HIA report says that up to 25% of house and land prices are just taxes. Now, let's just say you got a loan amount of $1 million. And I know a lot of you thinking, hey, I don't want to get a $1 million loan. I don't want mortgage insurance, blah, blah, blah. I know, I'm just using $1 million as an example because there are a lot of people out there, not like you guys, that don't have the 20% deposit. I'm talking about those that had the 10% deposit and got a $1 million loan to buy a $1.1 million house and land package. Now, over the loan term of 30 years at an interest rate at 6% principal interest, P&I, the monthly repayment is $5,995 per month. Now, let's look at what happens over the first 15 years. The total repayments over 15 years, $5,995 times 12 times 15 years, that equals $1,078,200. Now, the portion of that repayment is actually attributed to tax components in the property price. So if $270,000 of that property price is purely tax and regulatory costs, and you're paying interest on that component, and not just the principal, guys. So if you do the maths, guys, the principal repayment on the tax component, that equals $135,000. Now, if you do the maths, very simple maths, that's approximately 50% of $270,000 repaid in 15 years. And the interest paid on the tax component, that's $120,000 to $130,000. And if you compound this over time based on amortization tables, and now remember, guys, that $120,000 and $130,000, which I said, which is amortized, that is compound over time. And through that compounding, you'll end up paying around $270,000 of extra payment. And then on top of that, remember the stamp duty that you paid, which is $43,000, the embedded GST cost by the builder's contract, which is $100,000, and then the land tax passed on to the pricing, which is around $10,000 to $20,000, and then council infrastructure levy passed down onto you, which is around $50,000. Remember, all that stuff is baked into the cost of the property. And then on top of that, you're paying mortgage on top of that, plus the interest on all the other charges I mentioned above. That's nearly over $500,000 of extra costs, which is where I came up with the 46 to 50% of what you are actually repaying. So all in all, guys, you're not building equity through this system. You're actually financing government revenue streams. Because let's not forget, guys, every extra dollar of tax included in the home price, you're also paying interest on that tax. And even to not that extent of me saying, oh, over $500,000 is paid towards that $1 million purchase, I know that there's a certain truth to that, despite me kind of exaggerating the crap out of it. Because the focus of this video is to draw your attention towards how the government is so addicted to property taxes. Because according to the HIA, not my sources, but HIA, a very trusted source, it states that the government earns more from housing taxes than from poker machines, mining royalties, and payroll tax. And this is all of them combined. Housing taxes trumps it all, guys. So if you've been following me on this channel and you think, oh, Q, you always talk about conspiracy, you talk about negative talk, all this blah, blah, blah about the government. Guys, I'm just telling you guys to wake up to the data. We've been talking about housing affordability for the last decade, but nothing has changed. But if you look at this data, why would the government want affordability to change? Why would they cut the golden goose, guys? Instead, guys, the government wants to dangle the bait, oh, first home buyer schemes, and also, oh, grants. These are just shiny distractions while they quietly siphon more from the base of every home that you buy into their goddamn pockets. So right now, let's talk about which all you have been waiting for. Let's talk about how to flip the script against the system that's against us. But first, let's zoom in on Daniel Andrews and Chris Mintz. These two premiers, these guys have pocketed billions in property taxes while pretending to solve housing affordability. And on top of that, besides roasting those guys, those bureaucrats in planning departments, you know, those guys who create endless red tape in the council and then all blame market forces. Because guys, this is my real opinion. These aren't leaders. These guys are enablers. I mean, this is the greatest quiet heist in housing history at the moment. So if you guys want to flip the switch on this system, here's the truth. You can't stop the government from taxing, but you can stop yourself from being the sucker who funds it blindly. If you guys want to learn how to structure your loan holistically, build an investment property portfolio, which helps you maximize negative gearing, reduce your tax paid on your taxable income if you're hitting the tax bracket over 45%, and you want to optimize your property portfolio to go against legally the ATO tax system, I suggest you to book a 50-minute strategy call or a 60-minute deep dive for me to help you with holistic lending and surround you with my networks of financial planners, accountants, and respected buyer's agent to help you build an A-game team to build that property portfolio for you that helps you bulletproof against this effed up system. But I'm telling you guys right now, I'm nearly booked out this month because I've already spoken to thousands of frustrated Aussies who are watching this channel on IG, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. And right now they're waking up to the matrix. So the question to you guys is, do you want to keep paying taxes you didn't even know that you owed? Or do you want to play the game better than the people who designed it? If you do, hit the like button, hit the follow button, and smash the share button and share it to your mates who need to wake up from this effed up system. And until next time, thank you for watching another episode of That Property Roast, and I'll see you in the next couple of days.